Every single person that God used in the Bible, every single person went through some sort of what I call God's humiliation rituals. God's humiliation rituals. Every single person that we read about in the Bible that God used in big ways went through some sort of humiliation ritual to purge the pride out of them so that they would become fit for God to use them in the way that he wanted to. And if you don't believe me, let me show you some examples from the Bible. All right, let's talk about Abraham. Abraham and Sarah. They both went through humiliation rituals as well. Okay, so you know his story in the Old Testament. God told him that he was going to be the father of many nations. But when he told him this, Sarah, his wife, was barren. She had never had any children. But nevertheless, Abraham believed God. But even after God promised him that, they still waited 25 years before God's promise came true. 25 years. They even tried to get him to, they gave Hagar to Abraham so that God, maybe you made a mistake. No. They had to wait 25 years for God's promise to come true of a child. Okay. And that's a long time. Would you be willing to wait 25 years for God's promise to come true? That is a really, really, really long time. And yet the Bible tells us that Abraham did believe the Lord. He believed the Lord, even though the promise that God had given him seemed completely impossible. Abraham couldn't figure out any way in the world that this was actually going to be able to come true. But he still had great faith. And he still believed, and he was willing to wait for God, no matter how long it took or how impossible it seemed, because he was humble. And then the miracle happened. And Sarah, his wife, she got pregnant at 90 years old. 90 years old, and Isaac was born. There's the happy couple there. Isaac was born. But during that time, those 25 years, that was a very long time to wait. It was a time of humiliation as they waited and waited for God's promise to come true. But for Abraham, the biggest humiliation ritual was yet to come. And it didn't happen until Isaac was a young man. So when Isaac was a young man, this baby that they had waited for 25 years, God tells Abraham this. He says, Abraham, now take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, the son that you waited 25 years for, and go kill him. That's what God said. Take him to the land of Moriah. Offer him there as a burnt offering. Kill him, God said. What? Wow. How could God tell Abraham to do something so horrific? It goes against God. Remember when I did the podcast? Well, that was the Weird Prophet podcast. I said, God breaks his own rules. He's breaking his own rules right there. Go kill your son, Abraham. But that's what God told him. That's what God told him to do. And so what did Abraham do? Did he run away like Jonah? No. What Abraham did was the next morning, early the next morning, the Bible says. So he didn't even procrastinate. The next day, early in the morning, he saddled up his donkey. He cut all the wood for the sacrifice. He got Isaac, and he took off for Moriah to obey the Lord. And that is true surrender. That is true humility. Being willing to obey God no matter what God tells you to do. And you know the story. Abraham had that knife up in the air. He was getting ready to plunge it into the heart of his son. And an angel of the Lord stopped him. And God provided a ram for the sacrifice. And here's what God told Abraham after that. God said this, by myself, I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son, because you were willing to be humble and obey me, even when I told you to do this terrible thing. Indeed, I will greatly bless you. I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens and as the sand, which is on the seashore. And your seed shall possess the gate of their enemies. And in your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. He's talking about Jesus. Because you have obeyed my voice, because you were obedient, because you were humble. There is great blessing in humble obedience.